A clumsy waitress accidentally spilled hot coffee all over a wealthy CEO's expensive suit. She expected him to explode with rage and get her fired immediately. But when he saw the name engraved on her simple gold necklace, everything changed in ways neither could have imagined. The morning sun streamed through tall windows of the Metropolitan Grill, casting golden rectangles across polished hardwood floors and tables already set with pristine white linens and gleaming silverware. The breakfast crowd hummed with quiet conversation, the kind of place where business deals happened over poached eggs, and where servers moved with practiced grace to avoid disrupting the carefully maintained atmosphere of elegant efficiency. Behind the counter, nervously adjusting her black apron for the third time that morning, stood Emma Parker, working only her second week at the upscale restaurant, still learning the rhythm of the place and terrified of making mistakes that would cost her the job she desperately needed. And seated at table 7, reviewing contracts on his tablet while waiting for his regular breakfast order, was Michael Harrison, CEO of Harrison Technologies, a man whose morning was about to be interrupted in a way that would unearth a past he'd spent 20 years trying to forget. Before this story takes you into what happened that morning, pause for just a moment. If you believe in the way past and present collide when least expected, in connections that transcend time and circumstance, and in the power of small objects to carry enormous meaning, please like this video, share it with someone who believes in meant-to-be moments, and subscribe to Untold Kindness Journey. Your support helps us tell stories that prove the universe has a way of bringing people together exactly when they need each other most, even through accidents that don't feel accidental at all. Emma was 23 years old, working 3 jobs to support herself and her younger sister after their mother's death 6 months earlier. The Metropolitan Grill was her morning shift, the best paying of her jobs, but also the most intimidating, serving wealthy professionals who expected perfection and rarely forgave mistakes. She'd grown up poor, wearing thrift store clothes and eating subsidized school lunches, watching her mother work herself to exhaustion, trying to provide for 2 daughters on a nursing assistant's salary. That same mother had given Emma the gold necklace she wore every day, a simple chain with a small pendant engraved with her name, Emma Grace. It had been her mother's final gift before cancer took her, a reminder that she was loved and worthy, regardless of what life threw at her. Michael Harrison had built his fortune from nothing, starting with a small tech startup in his garage 25 years ago, and growing it into a billion-dollar empire. At 52, he was respected in business circles, generous with charity donations, and lonely in ways money couldn't fix. He'd never married, never had children, carried regrets about paths not taken and people left behind during his single-minded pursuit of success. This morning he sat at his usual table, barely tasting his usual coffee, his mind on a quarterly report that showed concerning trends, unaware that in the next 60 seconds his carefully ordered life would collide with a past he thought was buried forever. Emma approached table 7, balancing a tray with fresh coffee, her hands slightly unsteady from nerves, her focus divided between not spilling and remembering which customer had ordered what. She'd been warned that the man at table 7 was important, a regular who tipped well but expected excellent service, someone who could get her fired with a single complaint to management. As she reached to refill his cup, another server rushed past carrying a heavy tray, bumping Emma's elbow at exactly the wrong moment. The coffee pot tilted, and what happened next seemed to occur in slow motion, hot coffee arcing through the air, splashing across Michael's expensive navy suit, soaking his white shirt, spreading dark stains across fabric that probably cost more than Emma made in a month. The restaurant went silent. Every nearby conversation stopped. Emma stood frozen in horror, the empty coffee pot still in her hand, watching the disaster unfold with the terrible certainty that she'd just lost her job. Michael shot to his feet, coffee dripping from his jacket, his shirt ruined, his expression cycling rapidly through shock and what Emma assumed would become fury. She started apologizing immediately, her words tumbling over each other. I'm so sorry, it was an accident. I'll pay for the cleaning, please don't, I really need this job, I'm so sorry." Tears burned behind her eyes, humiliation and fear mixing into something that made her want to disappear into the floor. But Michael wasn't looking at the ruined suit or the spreading coffee stain. His eyes had locked onto something else entirely, the necklace around Emma's neck, the simple gold chain and pendant that had shifted forward when she'd leaned down to apologize. The name Emma Grace catching the morning sunlight streaming through the windows. His face went pale, all color draining away, his hand reaching out instinctively as if to touch the necklace before stopping himself. His voice came out hoarse, barely above a whisper. "Where did you get that necklace?" The question was so unexpected, so intense, that Emma's apologies died in her throat. Her hand moved unconsciously to the pendant, protective. "My mother gave it to me. Why?" Michael's legs seemed to give out, and he sat back down heavily, his eyes never leaving the necklace, his expression showing something Emma couldn't identify. Shock mixed with pain, mixed with something that looked like hope or maybe grief. "What was your mother's name?" His voice shook on the question. Emma hesitated, confused by this turn, by the way this powerful man seemed undone by a simple piece of jewelry. "Sarah Parker. Why are you asking me this?" She watched Michael's face crumple, watched a CEO known for his composure start crying right there in the middle of his favorite restaurant, tears running down his face while coffee dripped forgotten from his expensive suit. Michael's words came out broken by emotion. "I knew your mother. 25 years ago we were together. I loved her. But I was building my company, working impossible hours, and I made a choice. I chose business over her. She told me she was pregnant, and God help me, I walked away. I gave her money and walked away because I was scared and selfish, and convinced that success meant sacrificing everything else. I've regretted it every day since, but I never tried to find her, never tried to make it right because I was a coward. I didn't even know she'd had the baby. I didn't know about you." Emma's world tilted sideways, the restaurant spinning around her, nothing making sense anymore. "You're lying. My father died before I was born." "That's what my mother always told me." Michael shook his head, more tears falling. "She protected you from knowing you had a father who abandoned you both. That's the kind of person Sarah was, always protecting everyone except herself." "Emma Grace. She named you Emma Grace because those were the names we'd talked about if we ever had a daughter. I remember that conversation like it was yesterday. I remember everything about her, and I've spent 25 years trying to forget because remembering hurt too much." The manager had appeared, concern written across his face, ready to comfort his important customer and fire the clumsy waitress. But Michael waved him away with authority that allowed no argument. "Leave us, give us privacy. Everything's fine. This is personal." The manager retreated, confused but obedient, and Michael and Emma sat there at table 7, while other diners pretended not to stare, both of them crying now, a lifetime of loss and abandonment and regret spilling out between them. Michael reached across the table, his hand shaking. "I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I want you to know that not a day has passed, that I haven't thought about your mother, haven't wondered what might have been if I'd chosen differently. And now finding out I have a daughter, that I missed your entire life because of my cowardice, it's more than I can bear." Emma looked at this stranger who claimed to be her father, saw genuine anguish in his eyes, genuine remorse for choices made a quarter-century ago. Part of her wanted to rage at him, to punish him for abandoning her mother, for the struggles they'd endured while he built his empire. But another part, the part that had just lost her mother and felt utterly alone in the world, saw someone who was also grieving Sarah Parker, who had also loved her, who carried his own weight of loss and regret. "Your mother died 6 months ago," Emma said quietly, watching her words hit him like physical blows. "Cancer. She fought for 2 years, but it spread too fast. She died knowing I'd be alone because my sister is only 17. She died worrying about us." Michael's grief was total and devastating, the kind of crying that comes from depths rarely reached, mourning not just Sarah but all the years he'd wasted, all the moments he'd missed, all the choices that couldn't be undone. When he finally could speak again, his voice carried the weight of promises he had no right to make, but would make anyway. "I can't change the past. I can't bring your mother back or undo the pain I caused. But I'm here now, and if you'll allow me, I want to be part of your life. I want to help you and your sister. Not to buy forgiveness, but because it's what I should have done 25 years ago. Because you're my daughter, and I've missed enough already." What happened next unfolded gradually, not in dramatic movie moments, but in careful, painful steps towards something like healing. Michael didn't rush in demanding instant family status. respected Emma's need to process and grieve, and decide on her own terms what role, if any, she wanted him to play. He paid off the medical debts from Sarah's treatment, established trust funds for both Emma and her sister, but more importantly, he showed up consistently, proving through actions rather than grand gestures that he meant to stay. Emma introduced him to her sister, shared photos and stories about the mother he'd lost, allowed him to fill in pieces of family history she'd never known. They built something that didn't replace what should have been, but created something new from the wreckage of what was. Michael walked Emma down the aisle at her wedding 3 years later, met his grandchildren when they were born, became the father he should have been, even though he could never recover the years he'd lost. And Emma wore her mother's necklace to every important occasion, that simple gold chain with Emma Grace engraved on the pendant, the object that had accidentally revealed truth that coffee spills and coincidence and timing conspired to expose. The story became family legend, told at gatherings with wonder about the impossibility of it all, about the odds of Emma working at exactly that restaurant, serving exactly that table, spilling coffee at exactly the moment that would force her father to see the necklace he'd helped name her by. Michael never stopped regretting his choices, but he channeled that regret into being present for his daughters and grandchildren, into using his wealth to support single mothers and organizations helping families in crisis, into making sure his story of abandonment and late redemption might help others choose differently before it was too late.